Hey, it's Amrita Bradley, the creator of Breaking Boxes, and this morning I'm having a chat with Shari Balog. Hey, Shari, how you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. So Shari's sort of caught my attention recently because she's doing some interesting things with helping kids learn. So Shari, tell us a little bit about what brought you into this space, what you do, and what you're up to.
So my journey started as a psychologist. So I studied psychology at Monash University, and from there it kind of evolved and grew into kinesiology from my own journey and suffering depression. And I was seeing counsellors and nothing was working. So I saw a kinesiologist and it all kind of unraveled from there. It was just that little bit extra that I needed for myself. Kinesiology is energy therapy, and it does incorporate a wide range of holistic disciplines. And it just helped me, shift the depression.
Tell me a little bit more about kinesiology. So you did say it was an energy therapy.
Yes.
So how do we go from psychology, which is very science-based, to something that's a lot more sort of metaphysical in regards to energy? So first tell me about what kinesiology actually is, and then how it actually helps you.
Yeah, so kinesiology is kind of East meets West, so Eastern medicine meeting Western medicine. It's based in Chinese 5-element theory, which is about being in balance with the 5 elements and promoting health that way. We use muscle monitoring, which is the body's language. So we are directly talking to the body and asking the body what it needs to heal. And it can be a wide range of techniques that we use, from acupressure points to nutrition, to changing mindset, to meditation, working with the inner child. It's really an umbrella discipline.
All right, hang up there. Now you've got me curious. You've got me a little bit curious. So hang on a minute. Aren't I in control of my body? So why is my body saying something different to what my mind is? What's the disconnect there?
Well, as humans, we lie to ourselves a lot. So we, can convince ourselves to be okay with what we're feeling, or not even understand fully what we're feeling. So we deal a lot with emotions. We always find an emotion at the beginning of a kinesiology balance, and lots of times in session, clients will say, "Oh, I am feeling that." So they didn't actually realize they were feeling it. The way emotions work is they can go on top of each other. And, you might be feeling anger as the top emotion, but what's underneath that? It can sometimes be grief. It can be sadness. And, sadness and grief are really hard to feel, but anger is really easy to feel. It's easy to get angry at someone and, yell and scream rather than go and be vulnerable.
So are these feelings that we suppress either because we don't know how to deal with them, or we just have to get on with life and move forward even when we don't want to? They're things that, we haven't dealt with in our past that just sort of keep lingering around. Is that the sort of stuff we're talking about?
Yeah, so a mixture. Like, it can be a survival mechanism. You've had to survive and get on with it. You might not know how to feel it. Lots of people don't know how to sit and cry and sit with sadness or grief. So it's a combination of both.
And so you're saying that kinesiology can tap into what my body is trying to say, but my mind isn't acknowledging. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it connects to your truth. So what is happening inside?
Okay, and how do you do that? So you talked about muscle. So what did you call it? Muscle
testing.
Muscle testing. Okay, yeah, you talked about muscle testing before.
Yeah.
How does muscle testing work? What's that about?
So we can test any muscles in the body, from your arms down to your legs, back. The main muscle we use when we're in session is one here, which is called the brachioradialis. And it might be easier if I sort of show, I'll test another muscle. because it's easier to see, but you're basically asking it, so it's locked, it's not going to move from that position. But if I kind of trick it into saying you can relax now, it's going to move. So that's what we're testing. And we use those as indicator muscles. We can use it to ask questions. So yes or no questions. We can use it to ask, is this causing a stress on the body? So when something's causing a stress on the body, your muscles will weaken and it will move. That's muscle testing, basically.
So let's, if you don't mind, can we tap into a little bit about what you're saying about you feeling depressed? Interesting. Depression is something that's quite common. So what was it about psychology that wasn't working? So, we're talking, when I say psychology, we're talking about science-based, most likely also treated with pharmaceuticals. And then what drew you over to an energy-based, which arguably doesn't have the same amount of research and evidence base as, say, as psychology would? What drew you from psychology evidence-based to kinesiology energy-based? Yeah.
So in the moment, I didn't know what I know now. So it was more of just a feeling, like I knew I was medicated, and it just got to a point where I was like, well, this isn't working. I need to find something else. I need to try something else. And through, going to have, it took like, I'd say 6 months of weekly sessions, and I've never felt like that. And it's been over 15 years since, I've healed that.
So did it take a leap of faith to say, well, look, I've tried modern medicine, I've tried the medication, still not happening. Let's try something completely out of the box?
Yes, definitely. It was that, just like, it's not working. This, psychology is not working for me. What else can I do? Now, knowing what I know now, I know that, like depression is often a suppression of emotion. And for me, and we can suppress a wide range of emotions. For me, it was jealousy. So I was always taught, be happy for others, don't be jealous. But learning to find the gift in jealousy, because there aren't any negative emotions. We need to feel all these emotions because they bring us back to wholeness. And they all teach us something. So for me, it was learning jealousy teaches me that there's something that I really want, and it's okay to want and then to work towards that. So working through that, I was able to heal that depression. And when we're not working with our emotions, it becomes stuck in our body, because emotions are just energy in motion. And if they're not going to flow through us, they'll get stuck in our body.
Shari, I want to talk a little bit about energy. So energy, I think we all have evidence that it works. You can see energy in electricity, you can see energy in movement. There is so many different ways that energy presents in our day-to-day lives. But I want to touch a little bit more on what you mean when you say, the energy flows through us and affects us. What are you actually talking about? How does that work?
So we have meridians that run through our body, and that's our energy channels. So if you think about a flowing river, that is our energy channels. The water's flowing through, it's flowing through all nicely, and then a big gust of wind comes and it blows the trees and knocks the branches into the water more and more and more. And if we don't clear those branches, it becomes a block. So the wind is all the stresses that we face in our daily life. The branches that are being blown into the river that blocks that energy flow is anything we're not dealing with: the sadness, the grief, the anger, the jealousy, the low self-esteem that gets stuck there. So that blocks the energy flow in our body. It blocks the river. So as we start clearing that debris and bringing it away, the energy can flow freer and flow through our body.
Shari, there is no doubt there's energy all around us. There's so many examples. A really simple one would be like, you have a match and then you have some flint and then you rub the two together, you see a spark and you have fire, right? We know that there's energy all around us. There's countless examples. But can you try to break down for me how I'm part of this energetic field? What is meant by that?
So it's quite complex, but it's also quite simple as well. And I'll just sort of mention it or describe it as briefly as I can. But we are made up of, at the most smallest level, of atoms. Air is made up of atoms. This computer that I'm on is made up of atoms. Everything is made up of atoms, and atoms have an electrical field. So, a scientist can combine elements to make new atoms, to make new elements. And that is what we are working with. We can alter our energy and our makeup through, shifting that energy through nutrition, through mindfulness. So we are kind of becoming the scientists of altering our own atoms and the things around us.
Shari, tell me a little bit about how you're using kinesiology with children. So
I've always loved working with kids, but it was my nieces that kind of drew me more into it and learning how kids work. So my niece, when she was in kinder, was diagnosed with slight dyslexia. And so I started working with her and trying to help her overcome that, which she definitely has. And it's just using the brain and connecting in with our emotions, because when we're under stress, our emotions start blocking us and we focus on that. So things like, if kids are sitting a test or even in school and they come across something that they don't know and other kids are getting it, they come into, this is where psychology comes in, they come into this learned helplessness. So they start telling themselves that they're dumb, they can't do it, I'm not smart enough. So it's breaking through that and teaching them techniques that they can use in class every day and carry that on into adulthood as well.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about these techniques. What sort of techniques are we talking about?
So there's holding acupressure points. So there's 2 up here that is really easy for kids to do in class. And you'll probably find innately as adults, when we're stressed, we kind of rub our forehead like this. Our body knows what it needs. So it's just bringing that into awareness and saying, let's work with these acupressure points because I need that. There's movement. So getting up and moving, doing movements that are coordinated, I guess you'd say, in a way, incorporating techniques such as NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, and getting the brain to communicate effectively.
Shari, so let's say I'm a parent of maybe a grade 2, and look, my child's just been diagnosed with, on the autism spectrum, maybe ADHD, something along that, maybe a learning development issue. So what would I do as a parent if I was looking at using your services? What would happen?
So we would have a little chat. So when I'm in session with kids and parents, I almost act as if the parent's not there. So prior to the session, the parents and I would have a discussion and talk about what their concerns are. And I also ask them what their child's concerns are. So when, they come into a session, I am focused on the child. I don't ever want to be talking over the child, because that can often make them feel like, oh, mum thinks I'm dumb, or a whole range of things. The child is my client, so I focus on them and talk to them. And everyone learns different. So I try to find what's going to work for them. So some people might learn through watching videos. Some people might learn through reading a book. Everyone's different. So it's trying to find what works for that child. Because even though, you know, there might be this diagnosis, we can still work with that. So a great analogy that I can use is, you know, if you cut off your leg, you don't stop walking, you find a way to walk even with a leg missing. And that's what we do in session. We find a way that this child can still thrive and grow and utilize learning for their benefit.
Shari, what if, you know, kids find it difficult to use language to describe emotions? How do you then exactly find out what emotion or what it is that's blocking that child from getting to where they want to be?
Yes. So kids feel everything that adults feel. They just don't understand it. They don't have that knowledge yet. So bringing it down into basic terms and getting them to even just talk about the basic feelings helps them. So I have a little process that we use about writing down our feelings. So they might just use words like happy, sad, angry, but they're still being able to identify their feelings. And from there, it evolves to, you know, the more complex feelings that we have of self-worth and jealousy and all those things we feel as adults.
Yeah. But, you know, I'm not sure I really believe in the sort of this woo-woo kind of, you know, science, Shari. I mean, how do I know that, look, if I actually bring my child to you and I, you know, hand over my hard-earned cash, that I'm actually going to get some results? I mean, like, at least, you know, in science-based, you know, there's a huge body of evidence and decades of proof. Well, how do I know this is going to work?
So kinesiology definitely has a lot of evidence and a lot of scientific research that has gone into it, and there's more studies coming out now. But it's also you can see the difference from when they first come in to when they leave. So, you know, I have kids that walk in and they're so shy, and by the second session, they're running through and they're like, okay, see you, mom, bye. And they have no qualms. So it's almost instant. And especially with kids, the change is so instant that, yeah, you see it before your eyes, and it gives parents insight into what's going on as well, because they sometimes don't understand the feelings that they're feeling, let alone what their children are feeling. So we kind of work together and teach the kids and the parents.
Yeah. All right. So give me an example of an exercise or something that you might task the parents to do at home to help their kids.
One amazing technique that I tell families to do is when they're sitting down for a meal, be it breakfast, lunch, or dinner, they can go around and, even including the adults, talk about one negative thing that they experienced and then one positive thing, because we don't want to dismiss the negative, but we also want to end on a positive note and focus on the positive. So when the parent is doing it as well, children learn by example. So if we're not doing it, we can't expect our children to do it as well.
And you talked about neuro-linguistic programming before. Is there a language that goes with that kind of exercise? So, you know, how would I frame my negative? How would I talk about my negative? And then how would I actually talk about my positive? So it's actually, a useful exercise.
My friend was really mean to me today and it hurt my feelings. But I I was able to make a new friend and find a new friend.
Shari, we've already talked about how kinesiology can affect individuals. How does that then have a knock-on effect to the community and humanity as a whole?
So with kinesiology, we develop a great self-awareness of ourselves, and we can take that out into the world and we can inspire others. We can become an example for others. It also gives us, when we're connected with ourselves, we become connected with the world around us. So people, and also, earth in a whole. And we can learn to be of service, and how can we help others.
Shari, tell me about some of your experiences with working with children and kinesiology.
I had this gorgeous little boy. He was 7 years old, and he wasn't going to school. He really just did not want to go, and it caused a lot of stress on him, a lot of stress on his parents. And we went from him being shy and wanting his mum in the room and not wanting to separate from her, massive separation anxiety. And in 4 short weeks, he was kicking his mum out of the room. He was going to school. He went to school 4 days out of a week, which is massive for a boy who would go weeks on end without going to school. So he's done amazing. He has taken on board everything that we've worked on. He quotes me to his mum, and he, will say,
give me a quote. What is this?
So one of the things that I tell all my kids, fear is just false evidence or events appearing real.
I do like that quote. I do.
Yeah, when fear comes up, he'll tell his mum, fear is just false evidence appearing real, remember? So, and he quotes it back to her all the time, which is really beautiful. And it just makes me so proud. And, when I work with children, they're not just strangers to me, and they're almost like my children as well. I just get so proud and so happy that they're achieving and they're succeeding.
Shari, COVID-19 had a massive effect on the whole entire world. And there's been a lot of talk about, obviously, how the virus affects our physical body. But also, we know that, certainly with adults and teens, there's been a lot reported on, the effects of having stress around losing employment, or the threat of loss of employment, possibly losing housing, income, loss of connection, loss of their freedom, loss of their ability just to go and do whatever they want. But I don't think there's been much said about how this has affected children. So I'm talking about like your 12s and under. From their point of view, it would have been, I don't really understand what's going on. I know that I can't see my friends anymore. I can't go to school anymore. I can't go out and play anymore. I know that mummy and daddy, or, the adults in my life are really kind of worried. And so I know something's not right. So how do you think that has affected our 12s and under?
So there's a lot of elements that go into this. So there's, kids picking up on parents' emotions because they were with them 24/7. There was no break. There was, no, getting out of stressful situations that they were in. So they're picking up on our emotions. We all do. We can all, when someone's having a bad day, we can kind of feel that. And kids were feeling that, it's things that they don't know about. So they were picking up on that. The other thing is that kids need consistency and routine. That helps them develop. So that was gone. There was no consistency. There was no routine. Parents were also being relied upon to homeschool. So that becomes a stress because they're not qualified to do that. Everyone's got different levels of knowledge. So trying to teach maths when you might not be that good at maths, it becomes hard. And, you're trying to teach your children to be good at maths, but you're not good at maths. So the kids are like, well, why do I need to be good at maths if you're not? So there's that element. So it was a really confusing time for kids. And they didn't have connection as well. Kids need connection as well with people who are the same age as them. That's how we learn.
And not only that, I think it must have been tough to be able to, be told you can't go to see, aunties and uncles and grandma and grandpa anymore. That would have had a pretty detrimental effect, I think.
Yeah. So, missing people that, and I've noticed in kids now, they miss people so much stronger because they're in this mindset that, well, I'm never going to see him again because I wasn't able to for, 2-3 years, when, like auntie or uncle might be just, going away on a holiday or, and they'll be back. But kids don't see it that way. It was, I wasn't allowed to see them and it was for an extended period of time, and that's going to happen again.
Yeah, and all the differences with not only just the lockdowns, but having to hand sanitize all the time. And I remember, when the mask wearing first became, mandatory, children would look at you and not being able to see the bottom part of your face really freaked them out at first. I mean, I think they got used to it relatively quickly, but, they're looking at you trying to go, I'm missing vital information here. I'm missing, are you happy? Are you sad? I can't see your whole face. Who are you? That itself would have had some pretty significant effects as well.
Well, when you look at kids' stories or movies, the bad guys are always wearing masks. They're always covered. So, you create this fear, and then here we are, parents having to wear masks. So, that fear is highlighted because you're faced with it every day. So we can use the example of when you've been down the street and you see a kid wanting a toy and mum says no, and they break down, they cry, throw a tantrum. If we go back and see what's going on there, it might be, you know what, mum didn't show me love, and her buying me this toy actually will show me that she loves her, or love me, I should say. So, we might look at it as, oh, you're being a little brat, you're not getting a toy, big deal. But she might actually, or he might actually have had, instances where they've been asking for love or asking for their parent to show up, and they haven't had that. So it's all sort of built up to this point where they've asked for a toy and mum or dad has said no, and they've just broken down, had a meltdown. So even though it's something little, there's all these big things before it that led up to that.
So what we're saying is that sometimes adults and parents can not be quite aware of the amount of stress their kids are under.
Definitely. And, we as adults, we have so many stresses that take us away. And, it's a big job trying to raise a child and, make sure they're fed and healthy and clothed and they have a roof over their head. So sometimes these little things, fall between the cracks a little bit. And it's not to say anything against the parent at all, because parents are trying to work out their emotions as well. So when you've got parents trying to work out their emotions, kids trying to work out their emotions, who's going to help them figure that out?
And that's when it all gets suppressed.
Definitely.
Shari, adulthood is complicated, but childhood is also complicated, just in a slightly different way. Yeah. So as a parent, I'm trying to do my best. And, we all know that we've all got our own stresses. But what could I do as a parent to keep my finger on the pulse of how my child is feeling? So then it doesn't become this great big thing that I was kind of unaware of and then snowball into something, really massive. What do I need to do as a parent?
So the first thing as a parent to be aware of is we obviously want to look out for our children. We want to protect our children, but children want to do that for us as well. So if our child's not communicating with us or talking to us, that's okay. They just need another outlet. So journaling is a great way. And now with kids, if they want to write out whole journals, pages and pages, that's great. But at least get them to just identify an emotion. Or we could get them to draw for kids who, might not know how to write yet. that becomes their safe place where they can express it. Because kids, yes, talk to their parents, but they also don't want to trouble their parents. They don't want to worry their parents. And, you know, that's okay. You can have little rituals like when you do school pickup or when they come home from school where, you know, instead of asking, how was your day? You could say, what was one fun thing you did today? Or what did you learn today? Or who did you play with? So we're asking open-ended questions, where they're not just going to say, how was your day? Good. And trusting your own intuition. You know when your child is sad or upset or when they need time. So if they need time, you know, give them the space. You know, I can see that you're feeling sad, or I can see that, you know, you're crying and you might need some time to yourself. Do you want to go into your bedroom, or, you know, create a safe space for them to go? So you're acknowledging that you're aware of how they're feeling. You're giving them the space to talk if they want to, but you're also giving them the space to not talk if they don't want to.
Yeah. Can I make an assumption that if something is difficult in my life, that emotion is going to radiate out to my child? They're going to absorb it, right? So, you know, once I get my own sort of my own thoughts and feelings around whatever's going on for me, let's just say I had a bad day at work and I come home and I'm just a little bit short and grumpy and whatever else, my child's going to absorb that, yeah? So then maybe after I've had a moment just to steady my own ship, just go over to my child and say, hey, sorry, I had a really bad day at work today. You know, I could give some sort of like, you know, light version of what actually happened and say, sorry if that made you, you know, feel worried about me, but let me reassure you that I'm actually okay. You know, just sort of know that they're going to absorb whatever I'm feeling, and then just give them a chance to discuss it or let them know that it's all right.
Yep. And that's where leading by example comes in. So have that bad day and say, oh, I've had a bad day. I'm just going to take 5 minutes out and you could say, I'm going to go journal, or I'm going to go meditate, or whatever it is that, you know, you normally do to recenter yourself. Express it to the child, go do it, and then come back and then have that conversation with them. That will help them see that you're okay. And it will also become like a process for them.
Shari, what's one key message that you'd like people watching this interview today to take away?
When we are not feeling our emotions, when we let them just build up, they get stuck in our body. And from that, we can cause dis-ease in the body. So let's say we are stressing about money all the time. That can get held in our lower back. That can get held in our neck and in our muscles in our neck. You know, if we are feeling low in self-esteem, or, you know, like, when is it going to be my turn? Our thyroid can hold on to that, and then we can have thyroid issues and thyroid conditions come up. So working on our emotions, working on our own self-awareness from a young age can prevent these diseases from manifesting, because we're letting it flow. We're letting it flow through our body.
Going in, clear the noise. We're going through the feelings. You'll make it out by going